Welcome to CFOs, the Game Changers, brought to you by MyCFO, powered by Ramco. My name is Trina, and I will be your host for the day. Today's event will have a mix of panel discussions, interspersed with individual presentations from some of the eminent speakers. What we have today is execution-based insights by practicing CFOs who have contributed to the growth of various organizations across sectors on the everyday matters that occupy the minds of CFOs. To commence the event, I'd like to call upon Venkat. Venkat is a chartered accountant, cost accountant, and associate of the Institute of Risk Management, London. Venkat today talks to us about how the CFO is best placed to change the game.
So firstly, a very warm welcome to all the CFOs here in the audience and all promoters and CEOs who have come here to figure out how they can get more work done out of their CFOs. But a very warm welcome to both those categories of people. I'm not going to spend much time talking about stuff I think that most of us already know about, which is how the role of a CFO has now evolved from being that of a controller. I think that's a theme that's been spoken about several times. Accounting today probably takes care of maybe 10-15% of what a CFO's role is. Reporting is probably another 10-15%. A bulk of it is really acting as business partner to the CEO to figure out how to improve business valuations. What we're now beginning to see is possibly the evolution of a CFO to a CCO. And okay, you will say, okay, what's this kind of sounds like some consulting jargon. Okay, so CCO is Chief Commercial Officer. And a CFO in most companies that we now work with is making the evolution to a CCO. So what do we mean by that? Heavy involvement in vendor negotiations, heavy involvement in customer pricing decisions, product pricing decisions, in market expansion strategies, strategic acquisitions, joint ventures, and essentially partnering with promoters, investors, and the board to figure out how can we tweak the business model to maximize valuation in a sustainable manner. I think that's where the CFO's role is increasingly headed. We can clearly see this already in some of the largest corporations, well-run corporations in the country, and I think it is an effect that is slowly going to cascade down to mid and small size companies as well. So what are we trying to do here today is to essentially provide you with a glimpse of where this thing is headed, and what is it that we as CFOs can do to reskill ourselves to prepare for a better tomorrow. How can we be more effective to our organizations? And for the CEOs and investors and the promoters who are here today, what should be your expectation from CFOs? Ultimately, it's about a partnership. And unless there is a proper communication between the stakeholders, we really won't be able to achieve the writers. We believe that the one thing that CFOs will find it very difficult to replicate is the sheer entrepreneurial energy and passion of entrepreneurs, right? I mean, promoters never give up. They are at you every day, they're throwing new ideas, they want to keep trying different things, they want to always have plan B, plan C, plan D, and CFOs are kind of trying to keep pace with them. But where a CFO's true value is to be able to put a sense of discipline to that process. Can you channelize an entrepreneur's energy and passion in the right direction in a manner that it creates sustainable value and not ad hoc results? So, and in that sense, we feel that a CFO has got a big role in terms of how he can change the game for his company. So let me talk to you just half a minute about why MyCFO. We all heard about outsourced accounting and secretarial and HR and payroll and IT services. And we said, look, is it really possible for a company to quote unquote outsource a CFO's role? Firmly, I believe that it's not possible to outsource a CFO's role. But equally, we all know that there is a big gap in terms of execution capability today in the senior management levels for most corporations, right? Any promoter, any board you talk to will say that, look, there is business potential out there, but I don't think we got the right kind of people to help us to take advantage of that opportunity. So how do you bridge this gap? So there are 2 or 3 options that is possible. One, companies can continue to work with their existing, essentially accounting teams and hope that people will evolve into the CFO role. The other option, which is not always available to companies, is to, I'm not going to ask you about your salaries here today, but let's say a good quality CFO would possibly cost a company anywhere between 50 lakhs to a crore and a half. And how many companies today mid-sized companies can actually afford that, right? So recruiting a full-time guy is probably not an option. So we said, can we create an insider-outsider model where we get a CFO not to work on a virtual basis, but actually implant him in a company, but possibly do it on a shared service basis. And we've been working on this. It's been an experiment for the last 24 months, but I think after 100 clients, having worked with different promoter groups across 5 or 6 cities, we think that there is some strength in this concept. And just given the skill gap in the market, we think that this is a concept that is possibly going to remain here for a while. Incidentally, the other question that we keep getting asked for is, are you substituting the CFO? Not necessarily. I mean, one of the things is that 50% of our business book today comes from CFOs themselves. So in companies that have got good quality CFOs, very, very happy to work with them on project-specific issues to solve specific pain points. With those few words, I'd like to once again welcome all of you. I'd like to especially thank Mr. Virendra Agarwal, VA of Ramco, for having supported this event, who is now going to be called on stage by Trina. Thank you.
I'd like to now call upon Mr. Virendra Agarwal, CEO of Ramco Systems.
We will talk about the trends in general. It is what is happening in the industry on a global basis, and not necessarily what we are doing at Ramco. We will also cover a bit of that, but mostly it's about where the world is headed. If you see, CFOs are controlling IT function in 40-50% of the organizations, and it's going to increase. IT no longer reports to the CEOs in many occasions. And that's primarily happening because, nobody is any longer interested in having an army of IT people, huge data centers, and so on. See whether IT is working for you or you are working for IT. That is something that you need to have a look. The moment you have such a large team, then you have huge data centers, then you have disaster recovery centers, then you have certification of those centers, various things, then you have intrusion detection, whether somebody can look into your data from outside on a continuous basis taking place, and you have a lot of stuff going on. And very soon, without knowing, you're spending a huge amount of money on running your IT systems and infrastructure and IT stuff. So you don't be asset heavy, you be asset light. You don't have an army of people, you don't have huge data centers, you don't invest in databases huge, and so on and so forth. So just think of it that if you were to, as a CFO, you start a company and you have some 25-50 employees, and you say, okay, now I need to run payroll, so let me call a company which will do payroll. And I need to run financials, let me get financials done. So you call a ERP vendor, then you appoint IT head. Before you know, you have various kind of servers sitting out there. You need a computer room, you need the backups, the UPS, and so on, so paraphernalia. And by the time you become a few thousand crores company, somebody says that how can you do without disaster recovery? When you are on disaster recovery mode, that I need to do disaster recovery, and so on and so forth. And before you know, you call in somebody to implement your ERP. If by chance you call any of the big ERPs, that takes a very long time to implement, and huge amount of costs are entailed in that. And just as when you are getting good at using that ERP, they say it's time to refresh. And refresh normally means the re-implementation. And that's where you are in terms of re-implementation that goes on. So this is the whole theme. Is IT working for you or you are working for IT? You are working for IT if you are building expensive data centers, thinking of building some data centers, have huge number of IT employees, are paying consultants, army of consultants for a 3-5 year ERP implementations, lots of money, paying upgrades, paying refreshes, and then somebody comes and does an audit on you and said you have used 100 more licenses and you are supposed to use to cough up some more money. So I'm sure all of you running your corporate business are going through this. Do you want to go through this, or do you want IT to do work for you? Thank you so much.
We'll start with our first panel discussion titled Smart Performance plus Good Communication equal to Better Market Valuations, will be moderated by Venkat, MyCFO.
Delighted to be in the company of an extremely distinguished panel. May I please request GS to make your introductory comments.
And whether one likes it or not, CFOs today have to constantly engage with the markets and communicate the story. This is something that does not come naturally to us accountants. We have been trained as chartered accountants and we are very comfortable with the certainty of numbers. But communicating strategy is uncertainty because you have to tell a story. And we are not natural storytellers. So with that, I would like to introduce the notion that CFOs, if you want to be a good CFO, you have to be able to tell the story. When I say tell the story, not spin a yarn, but tell the story based upon facts. And in order to tell a story about your company, you should be able to understand the strategy. And this is where the disconnect between the finance function and the rest of the organization can have a very telling impact. First of all, many companies don't have a strategy. Second of all, strategy is in the mind of the CEO very frequently not shared with the CFO because the CFO is constantly embroiled with the quarter numbers and closing books and that sort of mundane activities. And the third problem is the CFO thinks the numbers part of it is much more important than the storytelling part. So this is also an attitudinal issue. I will sort of close by saying that we do not put enough premium on communication abilities. It is very critical. Unfortunately, whether we like it or not, English is a language of business. We have to be able to speak fluently and well. And fluently and well not just to small audiences like an analyst, but to a community of analysts. Like if you're on a road show and you're doing you're communicating with a bunch of 100, 150, sometimes very hostile analysts, you should be able to duck and weave your way through that experience. And CFOs who do that well, I think, are very, very successful. I can think of very big names like Mohandas Pai, who was brilliant at this, and many CFOs who have actually botched it because they didn't tell the story well. With that, I think that summarizes my experience.
Okay, thanks, GS. So with that, let me now request Raj to please make his introductory comments.
See, even a bad situation, how optimistic way we can look into that and how we can convey, that is very important actually. See, like if you see most of the time in the past, we used to manage the business to get the profit. Now, we manage the business to sell the business. That has become the business today. The business of any of the promoter today is not running the business and to take the profit. Today the business is to grow the business and sell the business and take the money. It is nothing wrong in that. So in this, the CFO's role is very, very, very important. I feel no other person in the company can fill that gap because you are working closely with the CEO and you know his mind. You can convert his ideas into your strategy and you can convert that into a presentable story and that can create the value for the company. That is very, very, very important. So basically the CFO role is completely changing. Please, whatever we studied, read or did audit, I think we have to use it only as a knowledge for understanding and analyzing the annual report, but not more than that. So I feel we have to change our role according to the time and we have to play a very major role in any of the investment, particularly a private investment or like a public issue, road shows or any analyst meeting. Our role is completely changing where smart communication is the key for success.
Thank you so much, Raj. Kapil, can I please request you to...
Yeah. Actually, quite a few of the points that I had in mind have already been mentioned. When GS mentioned that the strategy or whatever you want to communicate has to be communicated in a simple manner, I think that's really critical because most analysts, whether on the debt side or fund managers, they are not technical people. They are mainly business graduates. And when you explain in common sense language, they are able to understand what you're saying. It is not much use, at the end of the meeting if you've gone through a very fast and jazzy story, but the analyst has really not understood what you're trying to say. So it's very important to be simple when you're communicating the story to the analyst. And the other point is that you must be accessible. One thing that analysts and the investing community will absolutely not like is to lose trust, and the easiest way to lose trust is to not be accessible. Whether it is a good news or a not so good news, being accessible at all times to analysts is very important. And I think that is where having a full-time IR person comes in, because he has more time and he is able to be more accessible to the investors. The other very important quality to bear in mind is to be seen to be fully transparent and trustworthy in what you're saying. All questions should be addressed fully. You should not be seen to be dodging a question or giving a half answer, because today corporate governance and integrity are very important. Even if the performance is great, if there is a perception of being not very transparent or lack of corporate governance practices, that will not lead to a better valuation. So as I feel, the PER, the price earning ratio, comes from performance and perception. Both of them go hand in hand, and you cannot take one out from the other. The other critical part for a CFO is to set the expectations right, because he knows exactly what's happening in the business. That's one of his most important roles, to get a pulse for the business cycle, for the future. That's what he has to present to the CEO and to the board as well. So setting the expectations for the analyst community is very important.
So on that note, a very warm round of applause please for our panelists.
Thank you.
This session is titled What Does the CEO Want from the CFO? And it will be moderated by Deepak Narayanan of MyCFO.
Amira, what's impressive about your profile is the fact that you've scaled up Metropolis to 100 centers, 600 collection centers. You've got JVs in different countries, and you've got operations in overseas as well. So that means your CFO actually has a very tough job. Okay, so what's your take on that? What do you think?
That's true. He has a tougher job than me.
Okay.
When I got my CFO about 5 years now, and the profile of the company was quite different then, where we had much fewer centers. It was less scattered geography-wise, and it's been very interesting to see how he's sort of evolved with the business as we've sort of moved forward, which has been very essential, because he's actually moved from playing a role of a financial controller in a way, which is what I'd hired him as, and he's become sort of more of a seasoned CFO as the years have gone by. And I think it's been very interesting that he's played such an integral part of growing the business with me. I see him in a lot of ways. He's much older than I am. He's about 58. And I like the fact that he's got these years of experience and probably wisdom that maybe I'm lacking. And he's in a lot of ways my mirror. In a lot of ways, I give the honest opinions that I have about a lot of things, and in a lot of cases, if I'm thinking, something in a direction which is a bit off with what I would normally do, with my normal culture, with the DNA of the organization, when sometimes, you're tempted to do something a little different way, he's usually the guy that sort of puts me back on the path.
Right. So without actually asking you what your age is, I'm going to move on to Ravi. So, Ravi, you're actually a well-known name, right, in the sports and media industry. You've been a professional CEO yourself, and now you're a founder CEO, right? So what is it that you typically expect from your CFO?
Look, I think it's certainly different being sort of running a multinational company to starting your own organization, but I don't think the expectations change that much. I think that when you're doing a startup, my CFO certainly is much more of a business partner than just a number cruncher. And certainly, you talked about a marriage. I think, at the end of the day, we're a young organisation, right? And Amira talked about experience, and I think my CFO is certainly older than pretty much all the other people in my company. So that experience is something that I sort of defer to and call on a regular basis, because, my job is to be the entrepreneur and to sort of be the horse, and you need reins. I mean, you do need reins, and my team are too young to provide that in many cases. So, I'll go searching for Venkat in this case on a lot of occasions, just to bounce not just financial stuff off him, but just general business stuff to get a perspective. And I think it's true, especially for entrepreneurs, especially for younger entrepreneurs. That experience is really valuable, especially as you face the challenges of growth.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Ravi. Ramnath, you're uniquely placed, isn't it? I mean, you're unique in this panel as well, since not too many CIOs, as I know, are involved on the business side as well, right? So you've been on the operations side of CRISIL pretty much from the time CRISIL started, and you've also seen the technology side, right? What's your perspective on the CFO's role?
One is the financial controller that Amira talked about. We are raring to go. We want to achieve a lot more than what the market can do. We want to be right there ahead of the curve, and we want to burn a lot of cash going there. So that's when he acts or puts on the hat of a financial controller, tells us, hey guys, hold your horses. While you do this, you have to ensure that you actually get your returns. And the second role is where we say, can we do this? Are we capable of doing this? Can we achieve and deliver? Can we find the resources? Can we pay back our shareholders? That's when he has to play the role of saying, yes guys, you have done it in the past, you have the track record, we have funds, we are rewarding our shareholders immensely, we are one of the biggest value creators in the market, you guys are doing it, that is why the value is created, that is where the wealth comes from. And that is a very difficult role to play. One side rearing us in and saying, guys, hold your horses. The other side, guys, if you don't do this well, you will not be a 10,000 rupee share with 1,000 crore turnover. So that's what our numbers look like. So very challenging role if you ask me. And the expectation is also to wear the hat of an analyst. All of us who have graduated and grown in CRISIL are analysts. We have cut our teeth doing analysis. So we expect our CFO to come to the table with facts, numbers, graphs, presentations. And on the flip side, he also has to be a risk taker. So it's too much of an ask if you ask me. It's not an easy job.
Okay, so what's coming out of the panel is the fact that the first and foremost thing to make a CEO-CFO relationship work is chemistry between the CEO and the CFO, right? Which is paramount. I don't think we are saying anything different from say how a family operates, right? So unless you've got that chemistry, unless you've got a sense of bonding, unless you've got a shared vision, I think the relationship is going to fail, right? But I think the moral of the story still is that you could have all your fights within the boardroom, but never come out and wash your dirty linen in public, right? So with that I would like to end this session. Thank you all for this wonderful.
I'd like to thank Ramco, who are the sponsors of today's event. I'd like to thank Kanchan Kumar and Lavin from TAI for their support in making this event happen. I'd like to thank Amit Bhai, Atul Bhai and Mitesh from AP Doshi. They are our accounting audit tax partners for the event. Ashish George of SysConnect and Radhakishan Pillai from Chanakya Institute for your support to this event. I'd like to thank our TV partners ET Now and Venture Intelligence, who are our research partners for this program. With those few words, thank you all once again for having spent your time with us, and I look forward to meeting you all at another forum in the near future. Thank you so much.